The next characteristic of the bad spirit is they just simply will not forgive. They just will not forgive. And let me tell you, there is power in forgiveness, and there is a huge misunderstanding when it comes to forgiveness. Forgiveness is not a feeling, it is a choice. Forgiveness is not something that just one day will wash over you when you finally have hurt long enough, been angry long enough, suffered long enough, and God will anoint you with forgiveness and you will all of a sudden feel better. Forgiveness is a choice. And if your partner has transgressed against you in some way and you have made it a life sentence, you're contaminating that relationship. You might as well hit the eject button for one or both of you because you are on the Titanic. It's going down. Look, partnerships are ships and ships go down. And you're going to knock a hole in yours if you carry anger, bitterness, hatred towards your partner about something they've done. If you cannot forgive them, if you will not forgive them, if that's the truth, if that's the reality, then you need to set yourself free and move on. You need to set them free and move on. And I hope that's not the choice that you make, because you do have the power to forgive, and there is power in forgiveness. Now, I said that this is one of the most misunderstood concepts that I've run across in human functioning, and let me tell you what I mean by that. People have the misapprehension that if someone transgresses against them or some loved one and they forgive them, that somehow or another that says, okay, I've accepted this. I've said that was okay. I've said that I was angry at them for a year, so they served a year in the crosshairs of my anger, bitterness, and resentment. So the penalty for that from me was 1 year. You did what you did and you paid the price for a year. And I just can't do that because what they did was more than 1 year. They need to pay more than that. It was worse than that. And if I forgive them at the end of a year, then I'm letting them off. Well, that's just not right. What you're doing is letting yourself off. Look, forgiveness is a choice. And I have forgiven people in my life that never knew I forgave them. They never knew that I considered the fact that they transgressed against me. I have forgiven people that had not one clue that they had done anything that I considered an offense. And you say, well, what's the point? Why forgive them if they don't even know it? Because it's not about them. I didn't forgive them for them. I didn't give them the gift of forgiveness. I gave myself the gift of forgiveness. Because I know as long as I have anger and bitterness and hatred in my heart towards another, then I am locked in a bond with that person forevermore. They control me. I'm locked up in a bond with them. Anger is a very pervasive emotion. It's kind of like a skunk. I'm recording this podcast from my home today instead of the podcast studio. I'm down in one end of the house in my study, and the kitchen's on the far end of the house. If a skunk sprayed in the kitchen right now, I guarantee you would smell it in every room of this house. Why? Because it is such a pervasive odor. It just permeates everything. It would be in every cubic centimeter of air in this house almost instantaneously. It would contaminate every breath anyone took in this house. That's how anger is. If you have anger in your heart, it permeates every emotion you have, every relationship you have, every interaction you have. It absorbs a significant amount of your emotional energy. If you have anger and bitterness towards your mother, brother, sister, friend, spouse, then I promise you your children do not get 100% of their parent. Maybe they get 80%, 70%, 60%. They get some fraction of their parents because a fraction of it is invested in hatred, anger, and bitterness towards this person that you believe has transgressed against you, and your child is paying the price for it. because you are so consumed by it, it changes who you are. It doesn't just affect you when you're with that person. You just don't think I would smell that skunk when I went in the kitchen, do you? I would smell it in the den. I would smell it in the entry hall. I would smell it in the bedrooms. I would smell it everywhere. It wouldn't just be when I was in the kitchen. It would affect me everywhere. Just like anger, bitterness, and hatred would affect you in every relationship, just the way the skunk would affect me in every room of the house. It affects you. It changes who you are. Now, as I said, I have had people that have transgressed against me, at least in my opinion. It doesn't matter whether it's real or imagined. If you believe they have and you have resentment towards them, then that's an emotional skunk and it's spraying in your life and it's going to affect you until you get rid of it. I forgave those people for me, not for them. I don't care whether they know it or whether they don't. I forgave them so I could be set free. As I said, some of them never even knew that I forgave them. That's not necessary. It was necessary that I knew I forgave them. And like I said, it's a choice. It is a conscious choice to say, I forgive this person. I have to tell myself that doesn't mean what they did was okay. What they did might have been horrendous, terrible, horrible, mean, ugly, two-faced, backstabbing. And me forgiving them doesn't mean that that behavior is okay. I can forgive them. That doesn't mean I will forget. I may never forget what they did. I will learn a lesson from it, and I may never deal with that person again. But I can forgive them because I'm not willing to let them dominate my life. You need to make a list of those people in your life that you feel have transgressed against you or those you love. Who is on your list that you are angry at, have resentment for, hatred for? Because carrying a grudge is like letting somebody live in your brain rent-free. That's not okay. You're letting them live in your head rent-free. Don't let them occupy space in your brain. Get it out of there. Get it out of there. Set yourself free. If they need to pay a price, let God do that judgment. That's not your job. Your job is not to judge them. If they've broken a law, let the law deal with them. Just because you forgive them doesn't mean they are not accountable to the laws of man, and they're not going to face judgment in the eyes of God. But that's not your job. And here are some real easy ways to determine whether or not this infiltrates your life. Just as I've said, you are consumed with anger. And if it's at your partner, it means you are hair-triggered. There's something that they've done that you are resentful of, you're angry about, and so you are hair-triggered. I mean, anything they do, you just blow up and explode. If you find yourself so bitter that you take a pessimistic view of life in general, it's usually because you are wounded and you have not forgiven those that hurt you. If you tend to see the world as a hurtful place, you're just very pessimistic, you see the world as a hurtful place overall, then you probably have stacked up resentment and hatred. If your body feels physically unbalanced, we call that heterostasis. You have sleep disturbance, nightmares, poor concentration, fatigue, severe headaches, back spasms, any kind of ongoing chronic physical symptom. You dearly need to ask yourself, am I carrying bitterness and hatred in my life? If you can't read a book or watch a television show or a movie without finding something in it that reminds you of your resentment, every time you watch something, you go, oh yeah, yeah, I see that. Yeah, heard that. It's like your psychological skin has been burned, and anybody that even comes up and pats you on the back creates pain. You see a reminder of it in everything you read, watch, hear, do. Something brings you back to that. Then you are consumed. That's what you have to watch for. If you tend to interpret statements and actions of your partner first in a negative way, a critical way, why? Well, it's because you have a chip on your shoulder. If you tend to say, well, I'm not forgiving them because they just don't seem like they care. They don't seem like they're sorry. They don't need to be sorry for you to forgive them. They may never be sorry. They may be such a knothead, they don't get what they did. They don't get the gravity of how they hurt you. They don't need to get it for you to forgive them because it's not about them. It's about you. If you're telling yourself you're not going to forgive them yet because they haven't paid enough, they haven't got enough penance, they haven't groveled enough, well, you're just keeping yourself locked up, not them. And if you don't forgive because you want to use guilt as a hammer, as a lever to beat them over the head with, and you don't want to give up that weapon, then you've held on to that bitterness way too long. Don't weaponize your pain. Don't use it as guilt induction. So you may be thinking, okay, Doc, how do I forgive? Well, it's a conscious choice. You wake up every day, and if you're religious, if you believe in a higher power, and I believe there is a higher power, I choose to call it God. There's a higher power in your life, then you got to get up and say, give me the strength to forgive this person today. I choose to exercise my will, and I forgive this person today. I just turn this over to the higher power. They're going to have to deal with that, not me.